Hi everyone. Okay, so hopefully you've taken some time to look through all the information that's available in our English 1301 course area. This is for English 0119. So it is considered a separate course, but the way I want you to see it is as a supplemental or an additional space, an additional help space, an additional space to do some extra work to help in 1301. Okay, so this is just an extension of what we do in 1301 that has us thinking about reading and writing a little bit more specifically. But you'll notice that a lot of it is feeding off of the activities and the assignments that we do in 1301. So it may be a little bit confusing to start. Just make sure that when you're in your course spaces in D2L that you're in the proper space, like the 1301 area and then the 0119, because they are separate courses, you get separate grades. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just briefly go through the syllabus for this course, which has a lot of information that you have seen in 1301, but I want to just walk through that and then walk through our D2L area so that you have an idea of what to do, where to go, etc. Okay. So if you take a look at the course syllabus, it should look pretty familiar. It has all of the different contact information, office hours. A description of this course is that it is considered an integration of critical reading and academic writing skills. So I want you to also think about the fact that this is fulfilling some of those TSI requirements that you may still need to kind of check off your degree program. And so this is, again, kind of focusing more on the notion of reading and writing. It is a co-requisite, which just means that it is linked to English 1301. Okay, so don't let some of this language trip you up. This is just stuff that we have to have on our syllabus. So the student learning outcomes are here. And you'll notice when you take some time to look through that they are really working to just focus primarily on the notions of reading and writing from more of a constructive standpoint, whereas 1301 is, okay, beyond the constructive standpoint, how are we putting our ideas together, creating overall papers and ideas, that kind of thing, okay? We don't have a required text for this course. There will be times when you do have some things that you'll want to print or just have the e-version of, and I'll post those on D2L in the content area. This information is all the same from our other syllabus, so we just have to have it here, but it's always here if you need to refer to this or if you have some extra questions, okay? So you'll notice that I'm scrolling, but take some time to look at that when you're able to, okay? So for this class, the assessments are just a little bit different. Most of it, you'll see so much of it, is really just kind of this idea of discussion and participation, because what we really want to kind of think about for this class is, yes, we're focusing on reading and writing in some very specific ways, but it's all built on this idea that practice is what's going to help us improve our writing. There's no other way around it, right? We have to practice, and once we start to kind of flex that muscle and strengthen it, we're just going to start getting better because we're just going to get, more time invested in it. So not only are you going to get that 1301, but this is going to add a little bit more as well, okay? So that's why this is such a huge weight. And then I want you to note that 2 of your grades from your other class are going to transfer over. So your final portfolio grade and your multimedia project. So not the entire paper portfolio grade is going to transfer here. It's just some of those main things and things that we will review and also add in this class, okay? Don't get too worked up or worried about this. I'm going to go over it all once we start to get to that portfolio and that multimedia project. But I just want you to know that you don't have to do anything extra here on the surface. It's all just your grades will just transfer. I will go into the 1301 section and transfer your grades over to here. But so like the consultation, the peer review session, we may hold our own in this section of the class just to add some to that, but that's no guarantee. We're really working on this as we go because I just need to kind of get a sense of what it is that you may need or what it is that I identify as something that we can work on. So our schedule is really going to be dependent on 1301. So be prepared for potential changes, right? So this is really going to be more of a week by week kind of thing. But I promise that this is not going to overwhelm you. This is considered a 1-hour course, so the workload is not going to be nearly as intensive as what you would expect in our 1301 course, because with online courses, it can feel as though it's way more work than when you're in person. And on the surface, that is true, right? Because we're exchanging that time that we would have together for all of these things that we would be doing online, right? So I'm going to try to make sure that I'm balancing out what we're doing in this portion, and then of course what we're doing in 1301. So if you take a look at the schedule, I'll revisit some things in 1301 just to make sure that all of that information is clear. And then for 0119, I want you to watch the video that I am making right now. So check that off your list. And then you will have for this 0119 section a writing journal, okay? It's going to be due at the same day and the same time as the other class. So again, this is part of kind of the preparation and planning that are required to take online courses. So just make sure you're budgeting your time well, and at the start of every week on Monday, taking a look at what to do in the upcoming week, okay? Especially if you're taking other courses, or if you have a 40-hour, 50, 60-hour work week, whatever it is that you're dealing with. By Friday, you need to respond to 2 people in this writing journal discussion post, so the same is true for 1301, but you'll notice on Friday you don't have an additional discussion post, okay? So things fluctuate in this class a little bit, but again, it's not meant to overwhelm you. And then for next week, I've just offered another reminder just so that you have it in a couple of places, that for next week you'll want to do these readings that are in the content area and then in your course text. Okay, so that's just a brief look at what we're doing in terms of our syllabus and the course in general. Now I'm going to take us to our actual course homepage, right? This may not be your specific course, and that's okay. I just want you to get an idea of what it looks like. It's going to be a pared down version of 1301. Okay, so again, any announcements I will place here, but most of the time I'm going to focus, those announcements in 1301 unless it relates specifically to how this course is being run, right? Okay, so again, go to the content area, and on the right hand side, right in the week 1 module, you'll see the information. So we have the version of the syllabus with the schedule, the online discussion post rubric, okay? And again, this has its own video in 1301 if you need a refresher. I just wanted to put the actual document here so you could refer to it if you needed to. And then for week 1's writing journal, which will be always available on Mondays, I want you to really answer each question that I provide. And I said, just use a space between each answer to separate your responses. You don't have to indent and do paragraph style. That's okay. So the first thing I want you to consider is what we struggle with, right? Everyone has something about writing that is a struggle, that is hard, that makes us feel perhaps like we're not good writers. That's a voice in our head that we need to start pushing to the back, right? Or telling that voice to shut up, right? Because every person who writes has something, some habits maybe that aren't so great, or some tendencies when they write that require editing, that require revising. The best authors we know pay really good money to editors to edit their work, right? It doesn't just flow freely from them. It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of practice, right? So I want you to kind of identify, what is your struggle, right? What is something that is either a good or bad habit when it comes to writing? So I'm thinking about myself, and one of my habits is I procrastinate. I still, after all these years, y'all, I find writing really hard. It's not something that I just sit down and can do very easily. I get tense. It makes me really hot physically, so I have a physical reaction to it. So there are things about the writing process that are still hard for me. In addition to some of my habits in writing, I use the passive voice a lot. I do things grammatically. I have to show my work to other people and essentially get peer review from a group that I still, work with. It's not something that goes away. This is a process, right? So those are some things that I struggle with. How generally do you feel about the experiences you've had related to writing in different levels of school? Most likely, why do you feel this way? Did you have a particularly rough class, rough teacher? Did you have some good experiences maybe? Just share some of that. And then I want you to really think about who's the best writer you know, right? It can be, somebody in your life. I have quite a few family members who are really good writers. It comes a little bit more easily to them. They don't have the trouble getting started that I do, but they on the tail end need a lot of revision and everything. My parents are both pretty good writers. But then I also have those people that are authors that I admire. I love Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler and Gloria Anzaldúa and all of these remarkable authors that all have different styles and different habits with their writing. But again, all of them have editors that go in and help them revise and edit. So why are these people the best, right? So like I said with my parents, they don't have a tough time getting started. That's one of my problems. I'm not only a procrastinator, it's hard for me to kind of get going. And they also just have a writing style that's very easy for me to read. There are some authors that it's a bit more complex for me because it's not the way my brain works. It's not the way I read. So they write very clearly to my brain. And then those people that I admire, the authors and everything, they just have really stunning ways of putting words together. I can sit and marvel at a sentence by Toni Morrison because she just chooses and uses words so beautifully. If you haven't read any Toni Morrison, I highly recommend her, as well as Octavia Butler and Gloria Anzaldúa. And if you want any recommendations, I can definitely share those. But don't let me get off course. The literature nerd in me is going to go off. So your initial response is due, right, by Wednesday. And then please take some time to respond to at least 2 other folks in the class. I'm going to keep saying it, but the more you contribute to these discussions, the better off your grade is just going to end up being, not only because you're practicing writing more, you're engaging with one another, you're really getting a sense of community, but also because it means that you are checking into this class more often. More often than not, when I look back, at least at like the summer classes that I taught online, and even in the spring, the people with the best grades were the people who were in those discussion boards, right? I can see this information, I can see how many times you log in and for how long. These are people that put the time in. The people who were just kind of in and out, they were forgetting things, they were not reading things, they were just not investing the same kind of time. Now, I'm not saying you have to devote your entire week and life to these 2 classes, but what I am saying is that the more you put into it, the better off your grade will be, right? So I really need you to, at the start of the semester, determine what grade you want in each of these classes, right? Because the grade you want is going to be determined by the amount of effort and time that you put into it. For those of you who this may be a first online course, please don't get overwhelmed by how much you're seeing. The first week is always kind of bumpy because a lot of times professors like me post a lot of stuff just to get you moving in the right direction. Just take your time with it. Just note those due dates and times and always reach out if you have questions or concerns. In this class, just like in the other class in the discussion area, there is a Q&A section. I really, really want you to take advantage of that, right? So if you have questions or concerns, you're not the only one. So consider posting them here and I'll go in and check them, but I encourage you to answer one another's as well. We really want to get a good sense of that community, okay? All right, it's our first week. I know it's a lot of information, but you're gonna do so great. I'm really looking forward to this semester and all these courses, but keep me posted if you need anything. All right.